You've decided it's time. Time to finally get serious about your money, about investing for the future. You open your laptop and dive in. You spend a weekend watching videos, reading articles, listening to podcasts. You learn about asset allocation, tax loss harvesting, factor investing, Roth versus traditional IRAs, emerging markets, and value versus growth. By Sunday night, your head is spinning. You have a dozen spreadsheets open. You're more confused, more intimidated, and more anxious than when you started. So you close the laptop and you say to yourself, I'll figure this out next weekend. But you never do. Does this sound familiar? This quest for the perfect financial plan, the single optimal strategy, is one of the biggest and most insidious reasons people fail to build wealth. It's a trap. And today, we're going to dismantle it. Drawing from the wisdom of Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money, we're going to explore a crucial distinction that can liberate you from this paralysis, the difference between being rational and being reasonable. Understanding this will give you the permission you need to finally get started. First, let's look at our obsession with optimization. Our modern culture, especially online, is a cult of perfection. We're bombarded with content about the most optimal morning routine, the most efficient workout split, the most algorithmically perfect diet. We apply this same pressure to our finances. We believe there must be a mathematically best way to invest, and we become terrified of making a suboptimal choice. The fear of not being perfect leads to the most suboptimal choice of all, doing nothing. This is where we must understand the difference between what works in a spreadsheet and what works in real life. On a spreadsheet, the rational decision often looks best. A financial model might tell you that, based on historical data, the most rational long-term strategy is to be 100% invested in stocks, because they have provided the highest returns over time. A spreadsheet doesn't have emotions. It doesn't feel fear. It doesn't have to live through the gut-wrenching terror of watching its life savings get cut in half during a market crash. A human being, on the other hand, does. And this is where being reasonable becomes infinitely more important. A reasonable approach acknowledges that we are not robots. We are emotional, messy, and often unpredictable creatures. A reasonable plan is one that you can actually stick with, through good times and bad, for decades. That 100% stock portfolio might be rational, but is it reasonable for you if it causes you to panic and sell everything at the bottom of the next crash? Absolutely not. In that case, the rational plan leads to financial ruin. A reasonable plan might involve holding more cash or bonds than is theoretically optimal. A financial model would call this a drag on your returns. But if that cash position is what gives you the peace of mind to stay invested with the rest of your portfolio during a downturn, then it's not a drag. It's the single most valuable part of your strategy. It's the psychological insurance that allows your long-term plan to survive your own human nature. This applies to everything in personal finance. The rational budget might involve cutting out every single discretionary expense. No more coffee, no more dinners out, no more vacations. On paper, it leads to the highest possible savings rate. But if that budget makes you miserable and leads you to give up in frustration after 3 months, it's a failure. A reasonable budget is one that allows for some joy, some flexibility, because it's built for a human being, not a machine. It's a plan you can stick with for a lifetime. The most important factor in long-term financial success is not having the highest returns. It's having pretty good returns that you can stick with for the longest possible period of time without interruption. Consistency is the real engine of compounding, and a reasonable plan is designed for consistency. So what does a reasonable approach look like in practice? It means choosing a simple, diversified, low-cost index fund portfolio instead of spending years trying to pick the best individual stocks. The odds of you outsmarting the market are incredibly low, but the odds of you achieving success by simply owning the market and letting it compound are incredibly high. It's the most reasonable, good enough strategy there is. It means paying off your mortgage early, even if a spreadsheet tells you that you could theoretically get higher returns by investing that money in the stock market instead. Why? Because the psychological freedom and peace of mind that comes from owning your home outright might be more valuable to you than the extra potential return. That is a perfectly reasonable decision. It means prioritizing a solid emergency fund in a boring savings account before you start aggressively investing. That cash is your defense against life's chaos. It protects you from being forced to sell your long-term investments at the worst possible time to cover an unexpected expense. How can you start building your own reasonable plan today? First, prioritize simplicity above all else. If you can't explain your investment strategy to a 10-year-old, it's probably too complicated. Complexity is the enemy of consistency. Second, solve for sleep. This is the ultimate test of a reasonable plan. Design a financial life where you can sleep soundly at night, even when the market is in turmoil. This will tell you your true risk tolerance, not what some online questionnaire says it should be. And third, give yourself permission to not be perfect. Give yourself permission to be good enough. Starting a simple automated savings plan into a single index fund today is infinitely, immeasurably better than spending another year researching the perfect multi-asset, factor-tilted, tax-optimized strategy and doing nothing. Stop chasing perfection. The quest for the optimal plan is a trap. It's a form of sophisticated procrastination that masquerades as diligence. The most successful investors in the long run are not necessarily the ones with the highest IQs or the most complex spreadsheets. They are the ones who found a reasonable strategy they could understand and stick with, year after year, decade after decade, through all of life's unpredictable ups and downs. The goal isn't to be a rational robot, it's to be a reasonable human who actually finishes the race.